Hey everyone, it's Maddie.
And today we're going to have a general discussion on how our reading has changed. This isn't to do with our tastes, it's more to do with our tracking and how we share our opinions.
So a decision we made at the very beginning of the year was that we weren't going to use Goodreads to track our reading anymore.
It was something that we'd really dropped off of doing at the end of last year anyway, especially because we weren't reading as much as we were 2 or 3 years ago.
When we were reading 20 books a month, I would find it really difficult to remember what I'd read 5 books back, but because I'm only reading like 3 books a month now, it's really easy to remember.
Yeah.
I think it's been a little bit of a trend recently to not partake in the Goodreads challenge or set it as a really low goal to not give yourself that pressure. But I feel like because I wanted to constantly be beating my Goodreads goal and each year it would get silly, like 200 books, 220 books, I couldn't fathom actually reading any more than that. So I think I do have a Goodreads challenge, just...
Mine is only 36 books.
Yeah,
so.
I just want reading to be manageable and not feel like something I have to do. It's
Just
not
to get
a game.
numbers, yeah. We also never have particularly used Goodreads as a social platform. It's mostly just been a catalogue for us. But obviously we were influenced by the people that we followed and the books that came up on our feed, and I always felt this huge overwhelm whenever I went on Goodreads, like especially with American contemporaries and fantasy, and we read predominantly UK-based things, so it just felt like I was drowning in a sea of books that I was mildly interested in but knew that I would probably never read, and then I just add them to a TBR pile that became never-ending and totally unmanageable. And from just adding what everyone else was reading or what everyone else was liking, I really lost a sense of what I genuinely wanted to read and what I wanted to read just because it was popular.
We were also using Goodreads as a huge crutch when it came to buying books. Rather than trusting our instincts and reading a blurb or seeing if there are any buzzwords that appeal to us, we would always go to Goodreads and see what the most popular community reviews were. And here's the thing, they would either be 5-star reviews or 1-star reviews. Like, it wasn't a middle ground.
Yeah. You'd end up reading those like 1 or 2 star reviews to like convince you what way to swing.
Exactly, and I felt like I was always putting more emphasis on negative reviews and trusting those rather than 5-star reviews. So in the end I probably put down more books that I probably would have enjoyed.
Now we would rather spend more time in the bookshop and read the first chapter or the first 10 pages rather than go to reviews, because you're going to get a more accurate picture of whether it's a story you're going to enjoy.
It's all built on trusting other people's opinions rather than your own, and I was never putting like how I thought I'd react to a book first.
And when it came to reviewing books on Goodreads, which I used to write like a few paragraphs for, like we used to have a review blog and we updated it basically daily, and then over the last 3 years like barely posted anything at all.
Yeah, that's true.
But on Goodreads I'd still write a little sentence, but in the end I started to write those sentences just for me and have them as my private notes, and they weren't reviews so much as just my reactions to it, thoughts I had whilst reading or the way the book made me feel. I would go to the reviews other people had written and I would read those before like forming any thoughts of my own, or I would be writing something and then just think, what have other people said about this? And they might have pointed out something that I hadn't commented on, or something that was like, or something where I was like, oh yeah, that was bad. And then I'd feel like the need to write about that as well. So I felt like my words were becoming way too filtered with other people's.
What you said about feelings as well has become more important to us, and that's one of the reasons why we also no longer give star ratings to books. It doesn't actually seem like a very valuable way to classify something.
Especially when one person's 3 stars could be the equivalent for someone else's 2-star, and someone could like really use 4-star ratings when I was either like, it was a 3-star book or a 5-star book, there was no in between for me. So it's not very accurate either for other people to see a star rating and like understand then what that person thought about it. And it also really encourages comparison between different books and a sort of huge rating of like, well, was this book better than the last one you read?
Yeah.
Or was it slightly worse than the one before that one? And it encourages this thing where you have your favourite book ever, which is just one at the top, and then your least favourite book, and everything else is ordered.
But definitely putting those books within a hierarchy and then having to judge 2 5-star books against each other, and then maybe coming to the decision that that 5-star book is actually like a 4 or maybe even a 3 in comparison to that 5.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense for us.
One of the things that we were really conscious of when we decided to stop rating books was that we were then like letting go of negative opinions. And when we first started our channel, we were very honest about literally everything we read. And we'd get quite a few comments and praises from people saying, wow, you guys are really honest. It's refreshing to see such a concise, unfiltered opinion. And that's not a bad thing at all. The more books we were reading and the longer we stayed around on BookTube, we realised that we didn't really want to be sharing negativity anymore.
It's kind of a difficult decision to make in terms of growing your YouTube channel, because across the whole platform, people really love to see criticism. It's like an easy way to gain exposure because because people are more likely to connect with you over something you both mutually didn't like than did.
It wasn't really something that we wanted to participate in anymore, and that we'd rather spend the time that we talked about books elevating the ones that we really enjoyed rather than giving more airtime to books that we didn't care about. Obviously, if it comes to something problematic in a book, we're not going to hush up about that. Like, we'll still air those grievances, but it's more about if a book isn't to our taste, we're not going to rant about it forever.
Also, you may have noticed on this channel that we haven't been doing wrap-ups at the end of every month. This year we've done quite a good job of following our reading as we read the books, which means we don't have to sit down like 3 weeks later and discuss books that we've kind of forgotten why we liked them in the first place. Just that like excitement about a book and how much you loved it. I really like capturing that, so hopefully that's a style that we can emulate in the future. So if you want to see what we're going for now, check out our most recent reading vlog.
This is the trend that BookTube has also been following over the last year, really. Like, reading vlogs have risen and wrap-ups have gone down. But it's also important to note that we're not talking about everything that we read anymore. It's not that, like, I have read this book and I have to talk to you about it because then I get like a little trophy inside of my brain where that's like wrapped up and finished. You're now only hearing probably about 75% of what we read. So books that we're not enthusiastic about or that we didn't enjoy, we're just not going to talk about anymore. If you want to see everything that we read, you can look at our Goodreads page because we are just like archiving things by the month. But if you want to be true detectives, then you can just see the ones that we're talking about and the ones that we're not, and then like put two and two together. How has your relationship to books and reading and rating changed as you've been on BookTube, as a viewer or as a creator?
And let us know how you track your reading, if you use Goodreads or if you have your own personal system.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. We post bookish videos every Sunday.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MaddieandB, and those links are always in the description.
Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.